We'll get started. I welcome everybody to the Pat Tillman Veteran Center Veteran Voices. I'm Sean Bonzoff, the Assistant Director of Student Success here at the Pat Tillman Veteran Center, and I welcome you here today. My colleague, Benno Thomas, our Success Advocate, he'll be handling Q&A, so please use the Q&A if you have any questions for our panelists. Today's panel consists of veterans who had family while they served. So this is the parenting experience. We're excited to bring them on here today. And I want to start today just by letting you know, if this is your first Veteran Voices, know that at the Pat Tillman Veteran Center, we want to give voice to all the different smaller populations that are within our larger population. So this is one microcosm within our big macrocosm, and I'm excited about it. And if I could have, we'll go around the Zoom room here and have each of our panelists introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what branch you served in, and what you're currently engaging in, whether it's school or work or whatever that might be. So let's start with Brian. Brian, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Sean. I am Brian Duffy, and I was an Army vet. I was in the military from 2004 to 2008. And yeah, I did a couple deployments. Now I am a senior SCO, school certifying official here at ASU. So I help process your education benefits.
Sweet. Thanks, Brian. Welcome. Amanda.
My name's Amanda Tolman. I served in the Army from September 2007 until July of 2018. And currently I am an MSW, Master's of Social Work student at ASU University.
Thank you, Amanda. Welcome. And Gil.
Hi, my name is Gil Ruiz. I served Marines from May 2006 to May 2010. And I am currently pursuing a bachelor's and master's in engineering robotics.
Awesome. Welcome to all of our panelists. So glad to have you. And I'm excited about getting some answers to these questions that some of our students might have. So let's get started to know a little bit more about you. Why did you join the military? And in addition to that, was it a part of a family legacy for you to join? And let's go to Amanda to answer this to start with. I'd like to get everybody's feedback on this.
Yeah, so I came from a family. I am the first to graduate with a bachelor's degree. And so my goal in joining the military was to be able to get an education. And so I've been able to do that. And I do come from a military family, not my immediate family. My dad did go to the Air Force Academy for a little while, but he did not make that a career. And then my grandfather was in the Navy. Both of my grandfathers were in the Navy. And then I have a step grandfather who is in the Army.
Awesome. So you joined for the education, but at the same time, it was part of what your family does?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. How about you, Gil? Why did you join the military, and is it part of a family legacy for you?
No, I'm the first one to join the military in my family. We migrated from Puerto Rico during the 90s, and I joined the military. I think it was because of selfish reasons, to be honest. I was told that I couldn't do it, and at the same time, I was young and I was rebellious, and I thought I knew it all. So I joined the Marines, and that's pretty much it. I didn't know I was going to get so many benefits out of it, so I'm kind of glad that I did do that.
All right.
After.
It's great. It's good. Hey, sometimes those selfish things that we do end up benefiting us. That's for sure. I wonder, though, in the middle of your Marine Corps training, if you're like, I don't know if this was the right thing to do or not, but yeah, it might have paid back in different dividends. How about you, Brian? Why'd you join, and is it part of a family legacy for you?
Yeah, I joined for many reasons. Also, it is part of a family legacy. I've got two uncles. One was in Korea in the Navy. One was a lieutenant in Vietnam. My dad was a specialist. He did 2 tours in Vietnam as well. And yeah, I joined basically for, like I said, a lot of reasons. One, I'm just kind of a worldly spirit. I wanted to get out and see some of the world. And at the time I was in rural Indiana, and I didn't think I was going to get out of there any other way. So that was one reason. Obviously, the college was a huge thing for me. I wore glasses very similar to yours. So having LASIK surgery was also a huge benefit to me.
Mm.
And then also, I know we're going to talk about kids and parenting and everything, but my first born was in the womb when I joined. So having that TRICARE, that insurance was a really big thing for us.
Yeah.
I think kind of going off of what Gil said, there was obviously a patriotic aspect for me joining as well, one of national pride and wanting to represent America. But I think all of us have somewhat of a selfish reason as well. I think it's a combination of both for everybody. I remember in basic training, like the very first week we got there and the drill instructors were doing their shark attacks, they made a note to get in our face and tell us that somewhere along the line, we messed up, or our grades weren't good enough, or we weren't making enough money, and there was definitely a selfish reason why we joined as well, and that was okay, and to embrace it. So for me, it was a combination of it all.
Yeah. They do have a way of doing things. They have a way of stating things for all of us. If you've never been in the military and this is the first time you've talked to somebody, your drill instructor can make you understand things you never thought you could understand. That's just the way it is. But were any of you a military brat? So Brian, I heard no, you weren't, but your kids obviously were. That's why you're here today. So do you feel like, you all mentioned it a little bit, Gil, you said you were the first in the line, but did you feel like this added pressure because people in your family had served, that like somebody's got to step into that space? I know I did. I felt that from many generations behind me, pushing, popping me almost out of the womb, like you would say, Brian, into the Army. Did you feel like there was some added pressure? Anybody? Yeah.
I would say for me, Gail, I saw you were going to go, sorry. It was, we were all girls. And so it was like, nobody was going to join. We just thought that was it. And I honestly was like desperate to go to college, and I had actually failed out of college, and I was like, there's no way I can afford to do this. And so I went into a recruiter's office, and they were like, hey, we have all this bonus money because we need you to deploy. And so I joined on a whim, and then I ended up being my dad's favorite son. So yeah, there was afterwards, I think, some of this pressure of like fulfilling this legacy, but I don't think before I felt that, because I think they assumed because I was female, I just wouldn't join.
I gotcha. How about you guys? Anything else?
Yeah, I'll say for me there was, especially from my aunt and uncle specifically. My aunt was a military brat growing up, and she's basically kind of like my second mom. We were there every weekend, all the summers. I kind of grew up with those cousins, and those cousins are a school administrator and a lawyer. So me working in the trailer factory in, like I said, rural Indiana wasn't really generating the most pride from my family. So yes, it's definitely something that earned me respect once I joined and obviously deployed, and my experiences with my uncles and my family members that were also military were greatly enhanced because of it. I'm closer to them now than I ever thought I would be.
Thanks, Brian. Gil, maybe you are the first in a line, but did you feel any pressure from your community about joining, or the importance of it? Did you feel?
Yeah, I did. I felt the pressure of when I had said that I was going to do it, and people's replies were, you're not going to make it. You just don't have it in you. I felt that pressure of, okay, I don't have a choice now. I have to do it. And I remember my dad, I was 17 at the time. My dad really didn't want me to go in, and he forced me. Back then it was VCR. He put the Saving Private Ryan 3-cassette movie, right? Like just one right after the other, making me watch it, telling me in Spanish, that's going to be you. And me just holding it in, because I'm like, holy crap, like it's going down, right? But just, keeping it straight, that poker face, like, no, I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And it was, that was, not pressure to the point where, you have family, looking at you like, hey, you got to keep the family name going, right? But pressure in the sense of, you said you were going to do something. Are you really going to do it? And that pressure, I did feel that pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks all three of you for that vulnerability. I think that helping our viewers understand that there is this thing. We can't always even put our fingers or our thumbs on it, but there is this pressure that is created. Each of you obviously were chosen for this panel because you have kids. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your kids? You don't have to be too detailed, but be as detailed as you'd like. I know as a dad myself, I always like to brag about my kids, talk about my kids. We welcome that here. We'd love to hear about how many kids you have, boys, girls, ages, if you'd like, whatever. And so let's start with you, Gil.
I have a 9-year-old boy, going to be 10 in June.
Mm-hmm.
And my son wasn't born during my time in the military. It was after the military. But he's definitely, I would say he's the reason, 95% of the reason why I made the changes that I did make in my life, and for the better. And I've learned a lot from him about myself, and how to treat people, how not to treat people. Still learning every day, but definitely he's been an asset to me in the sense that I've grown emotionally, I've grown spiritually, I've matured, right? Somewhat, at least. And I'm crazy about that little dude. I have equal custody with him, and I made sure to fight for that. And I ended up getting it. And I take pride in taking him every single week. We go for a mile walk. He takes a scooter, and just to get him out the house and just to spend time with him, and we talk. And I try to build that bond with him, because I know growing up, my dad wasn't always around. So I want to make sure that he still has that. But he's definitely best thing that's ever happened to me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thank you, Gil. Amanda, let's talk about your kiddos.
Yeah, I don't know if I can follow Gil, man. That was good. Right now we have 5 kids in our house. 3 are my husband and I's, and then we have 2 foreign exchange students. So my kids I have a 2-year-old, and then I have a 7-year-old who we had during my time in the service. And then we have a 13-year-old, and we adopted her. So she was there for a part of my service, but not during the whole thing, because we adopted her later on. And then, I really do. I love my kids as well. They've been a really just strong support, especially through my military service. And my son will say things like, "Mom, you're my hero," and "You're a hero, Mom," or just really sweet things that I think he really identifies with my military service and appreciates that. And he was kind of the one there through more of it than the rest of the kids. So I think he connects to it the most. And so that's been really cool. And when my grandfather recently passed away last week, and he was in the Navy. And so I spoke at the funeral and did the military portion. And my son was most connected with, he was his great grandfather. And so he had such a strong relationship with him. And I was just really grateful, I think, because my grandfather and I connected so much through the military, that helped that connection with him. And so even though he didn't have a lot of time to spend with him, he did get to know his great grandfather and has really great memories and pictures with him because of that. So
it's so cool how your military service connected your son to your grandfather because of that. Love that. Thank you for sharing that, Amanda. Brian, brag up your kid.
Yeah, well, which one? They're both
Yeah,
awesome.
whatever.
I've got two girls. Savannah is 17. She's a junior in high school. She's right out of a movie. I'm telling you, she's like my blonde cheerleader who's upbeat and Miss Popular and all that stuff. And then my 15-year-old, she's a freshman in high school, Jordan. She's my introvert, extremely talented artist, but she's all into like goth and emo music. So they couldn't be more polar opposite. But they do love each other and they get along and they're best friends. So really good kids, great temperament. Love them.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I think we do. Benno, we have a question in the Q&A.
A question of sorts. This one I think is specifically directed at Amanda, boss. This is from Hannah in the crowd. It says, Amanda, I feel that deep in response to our last question about being my dad's son he always wanted. LOL. She's one of 3 girls, apparently. She's one. I thought you'd like to share. I thought you'd like to.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Well, I look forward to a day when maybe we can all meet your kids, and I would love to meet them. Like I said, I have kids of my own, and they were a part of my life as I served. And this particular panel of all the panels, obviously, it touches me right in the heartstrings. Having kids as a dad, and while you try to serve your country and be in dangerous situations or whatever, it's not an easy experience, and it's not easy on our kids, and it's not easy on us. But thank you for taking the time today. What do you think while you were serving? And I know, Gil, you didn't have a kid while you're serving. Totally get that. And you'll have more questions that you can answer. But what were some of the challenges you faced having kids while you were serving? So what were some of those things? And then we'll talk about maybe after that, what are some challenges working and going to ASU that you have while having kids? Because I think some of them are the same, but some of them are different. So what challenges did you face? Let's start with you, Amanda. What were some of the challenges having kids while you served?
yeah, I think being a female, it was hard just to say goodbye to my kids. If any training I went to, I wasn't deployed. I was deployed before I had kids. And so I didn't have to say goodbye to them for deployment and worry about just them fearing that I might be gone if something were to happen. But I did have to leave for trainings. And I think logistically, finding just childcare, especially like my kids range in age. So it's really hard, especially during the summertime, to find someone to help support. And I can't imagine what it is like for single parents. And I know they have to have a family plan and everything, but it was difficult just figuring out. And I remember I had this, because I was in the reserves at this time, I had a 2-week training period and I had no one to watch my kids. And so I literally found someone online, and it was the day that she watched my kids, my phone died and I had no way of getting a hold of her. And she had just met me online. So she found my Facebook and was able to connect to somebody to get a hold of my husband so that I could get my kids. But I didn't know how to get to her because my cell phone died. And it was like it was put me in a predicament that I didn't necessarily want to be in, but I had needed to be, and I didn't know who else could watch my kid. And so I hired this person that I didn't really know. And then it ended up being a almost traumatic experience for me, because I remember trying to get someone at McDonald's to charge my phone because my charger wasn't working. I had bought a new charger. I didn't know if anyone could help me. Just on and on the scenario went. And so I think sometimes the challenges for that could be just being in situations you don't necessarily expect and having to overcome things. And then my kids thinking like, where's my mom? What's going on? And, you know, there were times that I had to stay longer than I had planned. And so I told my kids, okay, maybe I'll be home at 5, or I'll pick you up at 8, or, and the time just continued to pass where I couldn't be with them. So I know that that created, challenges for them as well, and things that they had to work through. And my son, he still questions, you know, are you really going to be home at that time? And challenges that, is that what you really mean? Does 2 hours really mean this? So
Yeah. Yeah. Army time and kid time are not the same time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm just glad somebody at McDonald's let you charge your phone, Amanda. Yeah. How about you, Brian? What were some of the challenges you faced serving while having kids?
You know, for me, I don't know that it was all too challenging. I think there's a couple variables in play. I had an amazing support system with my family and Savannah's mom. Like I said, she was in the womb when I had joined. She was born in July of 2004, and I was deployed in November of 2004. I had gotten out of AIT, and then 6 weeks later, I was boots in the sand. So during that training time, I couldn't be with her, and during the transitioning time, I couldn't really bring them out. And then of course the deployment. So with that awesome support system, we were able to kind of more, I guess for lack of a better term, we embraced more traditional gender roles, where Savannah and her mom stayed. Actually, they just wound up staying in Indiana until I got back on the first deployment. And then I wound up getting super lucky with Jordan. When I think I might have misspoke earlier and said, you know, I went on 2 deployments, but I actually was rear D on the second one. And the reason why is because my NCOIC at the time wanted another NCO to run the S1 shop. The colonel came down and had her have another SEO stay behind on rear D. And she's a mother of 3. And since Jordan was a newborn, she asked me if I wanted to, you know, stay back, which, you know, ow, twist my arm on that one. So I did. So it was really easy for Jordan. And the fact that both girls were very, very young during my time in, neither of them really remember any of it anyway. And then, like I said, the fact that we did the thing where, you know, I work and mom stays at home and watches the kids, it wasn't super challenging for us.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate both of your responses. Benno, we have another question. Oh, Amanda, go ahead.
I was also going to add, this might be like a taboo thing to talk about, I don't know, but breastfeeding in uniform was also something difficult. When I had my daughter, I was still in the service. And so it was hard because I really needed to be able to give her milk and get that and pump and all those things. And so I think that was also a challenge that I don't think a lot of people talk about. And then being able to do that in uniform was challenging as well. So.
Yeah. And, you know, our next question is what kind of resources were available to you and your family? But Benno, go ahead with the question from the audience.
Got it. Thanks, boss. And thank you for sharing that bit, Amanda. That's an invaluable perspective. The question goes like this, and this is a toughie, guys. I'll give you a little heads up. If you could, would you have changed having your kids while serving to after serving, or vice versa?
Yeah, whoever would like to respond to that.
I wouldn't. I would leave it as is. I mean, yeah, you get a lot of benefits, and that's always good. But what you gain with that is, you know, you lose a lot with that as well. Like, you know, if you're deployed, you're missing time with your child. not only that, but it's military hard as life on. It's hard on you, the personnel, right, in the military. It's hard on the spouse. It's hard on the child, because it's, you know, as I said, your time away, but also the pressure that builds. There's always pressure because there's always a demand. You're expected to meet that demand continuously, and if you don't, there are always consequences. And that people don't. I don't think people do it on purpose. Like, we don't mean to take it home, but because we just don't know how to deal with it, I guess, and because we don't want to seem weak, quote unquote, we just stuff it in, and then that stuff, I think, ultimately what happens is you end up lashing out irrationally when you're at home with your kids. And even though you may not mean to do it, you know, you can love your kids from you know, like from here to California, but unintentionally you might lash out. And I think that that could affect a lot your relationship with your child. And I just, in my opinion, right, I don't think it would be worth it to change that.
Thank you for that. Amanda, were you going to say something?
Yeah. I think for me personally, I don't think I would change it. I think the challenges that we faced as a family, it's something that brought us closer together. I do appreciate what Gil had to say, especially the lashing out thing. I think the stress of the military does get to us. And I felt like I was not equipped as an enlisted soldier or as an officer when I went through that, to handle the stress of the military in a way that was beneficial and healthy for my family. Since I've gotten out, and since my degree is in social work, I've learned and grown a lot. But I don't think I had those tools or understood the effects on my kids. And so I wouldn't necessarily change the way that we did it. But I will say I would change having the tools to equip myself to be a better parent. I think that would have been something that could have been beneficial back then. But I do know that those experiences did draw us closer as a family.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I always say the military, they do a bang up job and spend a whole bunch of money creating and turning you into this wartime machine, but it's the other stuff that they don't spend a lot of time or money on, the getting out and the retirement and the PTSD and how do you have kids while you're trying to serve, and it's kind of left to us to try to figure that out. So thank you for sharing that. Brian, did you have anything to add from our audience question?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's interesting. That's an interesting question because there's a lot of pros and cons to it. And to be honest, I'd have to review them all before I answered it. It's pretty deep. But you know, part of it is I'm a better dad for being in the Army because of it too. You know, something we didn't really talk about, but my dad, who was in the military, he actually passed away when I was 3, and my mom never even like dated after that. So I had a hard time learning how to be a man myself and thus a parent myself. So being in the military kind of put me in a better position to really understand what that was, and you know, still work in progress, but you know, I'm better for it. And like I said, you know, I kind of mentioned the support system I had, and I kind of answered that last question regarding challenges more from a logistical standpoint. But there was also a challenge with my oldest daughter getting to know me, obviously, because of the time. But then again, with the support system I had, it's every day showing pictures of daddy, and you know, the USO gave us calling cards to call back all the time, so she heard my voice a lot. So I don't know. There's a lot of pros and cons to it. I don't know that I would.
For sure. Were there any specific resources that the military provided for you that you're like, boy, if we could have that resource out in the civilian world, that would really help me be a parent today? Is there anything like that you can remember while you served?
I think the Military One Source and like Operation Camp Purple, both of those resources like the military one source, just being able to call at any time. I know there are some resources in the community, but as a parent, like when things are stressful, or even as a new parent, like you just don't know what to expect. And so you can start to feel overwhelmed. And I think having that family and that support, knowing like I always had the military, like if something went wrong, I could call, another officer when I was an officer, my team leader when I was enlisted. Like there was always someone to call, and I was never alone in handling a situation. When I was on active duty, I found out, I had cancer, and that was really hard for me. And so I was able to call somebody. I had somebody to call. And I think as a parent, sometimes I've felt alone in dealing with situations, and it would be really nice to just have some support or someone that I could call that I knew wouldn't judge me and would help guide me. I really do miss that aspect of the military.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, Amanda. How about you, Brian? Were there some resources, boy, you wish you had now that you had then?
I mean, the TRICARE was nice, right? We always talk about health insurance, and that having that, knowing that was taken care of was definitely a huge relief of stress. And also those PX privileges, the prices on all the food and stuff was also really good. But that's all I got for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Gil, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I miss having a doc. That one guy you could just talk to, that was, he would be in the same training and do everything that you were doing, but his thought process was different than everyone else's.
Yeah.
And the PX, yeah, that's a pretty sweet deal too, and the TRICARE and all that. I agree.
Yeah. Those are all good. Do you have any questions, Benno? Did you see anything? No? Okay. Have you found here at ASU where you found the resources you need to be a parent now in the civilian world, whether as a student or as someone working? Do you find ASU has resources for you as a parent that you're like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm here? If so, please let us know what those are. Don't everybody jump at once on that one.
I mean, they have a good number of scholarships. If you do diligence, you can attain some really good scholarships like the Pathways for Future.
Mm-hmm.
TRIO is also very helpful. I just learned about TRIO the other day at orientation day. So financially, yeah, that does help out. It would be nice if they had some sort of like care center for single parents, or even parents who are not single. Like, what if your significant other, people have to work, right? What if their significant other is at work, kids get out of school at 2:30, 3 o'clock? What about the days that they get out early, right? There's no one that, you can have that can help you, especially if you feel like myself, you don't have family here, right? So and daycare is expensive, ridiculously expensive. So if they could have, that would be one resource I would say it would be awesome to have. Like the difference would be night and day.
Yeah. A care center for your kiddos. Nice. Amanda, were you going to say something? I think you had.
Yes. So ASU has the, I think it's Life 360 is what it's called, the counseling app thing. When this last fall, when everything was kind of winding down with Afghanistan, one of the interpreters I worked with overseas, he was stuck there. And so I was trying really hard to get him out. Unfortunately, he's still in Afghanistan. But that was really hard for me. And my husband was in Colorado, and I had all my kids, and I was going to school, and I just got to a really, really low place. And so it was like the app thing where you like type in all the information. And I did that, and I was really excited to use it. But unfortunately, they're like, hey, we don't have an appointment right now. Or any availability. And did I cut out for a second? Sorry. We didn't have any availability. And so I ended up having to not take the call, like not reach out, because my kids woke up and then I had to feed them and get them ready. And so the ASU has really great resources. I don't know what happened at that specific time. I don't know if it was just like a fluke or anything like that, but I do appreciate that the school is willing to support students who may just need to talk to somebody in a moment, especially like we had just moved here and things were just starting to pile on and get really overwhelming. And so I'm grateful for that resource. I haven't used it since then. And so I'm not sure kind of if that's what it looks like every time, but or being able to like schedule a time like, hey, this time doesn't work, but could I, contact you at this time? I think that would be really cool. And I think in emergency situations, it would be nice to have like a childcare facility, or even partnering with like local places. I know there's a play center up here in Peoria that they do drop-in daycare, which I really appreciate. But there's like a $50 enrollment fee. And then, it's so much per hour. And when I have 3 kids, like I'm looking at $45 an hour to, how much is it worth for that hour? Like, so I think, if they partnered or something like that, it could be really beneficial to helping parents who are students as well.
Mm-hmm. Brian, did you want to speak from an employee of ASU space or?
Yeah. So I am not a student of ASU yet. I do plan on taking some classes in the near future. However, I do want to just give you guys a shout out, to be honest, here at the Pat Tillman Center. For a lot of people that don't really understand the organizational structure, we do have 2 basic wings. One's more transactional that I'm on, and I process the benefits and basically invoice VA and guide students through that process. But you, Sean, and Michelle, and Benno, you guys are part of our advocacy team and student success. And I know that if any military, student veterans with dependents did need anything, that they should absolutely come to you guys. And I know that you guys will do everything you can for them. So just PTVC as a whole is an awesome resource for student veterans with dependents, in my opinion.
Thanks for that plug, brother. Appreciate that. Yeah.
I would echo that. You guys are awesome. And you have helped me a ton. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome too. Yeah. Glad to be a part of the resources for all of you, because we know some of us, we've been there, right? So we know what it means to both serve while we got kids and then try to go to school while we got kids. I mean, I was on the 20-year bachelor's degree program. Took me 20 years, but I finally got that bad boy. Now I'm getting my master's degree. Having kids while you're doing that is sometimes not the easiest thing in the world to do. So if your university and the people around you can be a support structure, like you've talked about, having a support structure, trying to raise kids and do these things, and you're pressured, you feel pressured to get your degree, you feel pressured to join the military. And with that pressure, sometimes we can get down or sad or depressed or anxious, and all those things happen. So to have a support structure is super important. And so if you're listening here today, if you don't have that support structure, start to build it up, because I think that's really important for you. Let's see. Statistics show that the average student veteran here at ASU is 31 and a half years old. There's also a national statistic that shows that 41% of student veterans have dependents, when only 12% of a traditional student population has dependents, meaning more than likely, if you're a student veteran, you probably got dependents of some sort. You either have a spouse or you have kiddos. So this is something, I guess, that's national, that all across universities, we have student veterans going to school with kids. With that being said, when you have kids, do you find it easy or hard to rebuild a community that you had when you were in the military, right? So when I ask, all student veterans that I deal with, all veterans, doesn't have to be a student. What's the one thing that you miss about your military service? They always say camaraderie. Camaraderie is like the number one thing. 99% say camaraderie, and I think the other percent say the PX, but 99% is camaraderie. If that is the most important thing that you miss, having kids, going to university where the majority of the students don't have kids, they're not your age. How do you build community and create camaraderie now that you're out of the service and going to school? It's so easy that everybody wants to answer right now.
Well, I'll go first. As being a non-student again here, I can just tap into, some of my experiences. When I did get my bachelor's degree, I was on the 15-year program for that one. We bounced between different schools, obviously moved here and there, and took breaks when different employment opportunities came and went. But what I'd say is, okay, so I was a work study before I became an SEO, and I did my work study when I was at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. And at UWEC, we had a quote unquote veteran center, but it wasn't like what we have here at ASU. We had actually a dedicated space that had really comfy chairs and a TV and big, a big desk for veterans to do their work. It was almost like a big dining room table kind of deal. So we're facing each other, doing our work. And, we got regulars that would come in there all the time. And through that space, a dedicated separate space from any kind of processing of education benefits or anything like that, that was so huge. And we developed that camaraderie within our group there. And we still talk to each other all the time. So I think, that may be something that I'd like to see here at ASU eventually is some kind of separate space if it's not there already.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. How about the rest of you? How do you build this camaraderie when you got kids in tow? It's not like you're bumping up against somebody in your math class that has 3 kiddos. How do you build that?
I would say for me, I haven't. It's been really hard. It's been just a challenging time, especially you throw on top of it the pandemic. And and different people have different ideas and opinions, and it just makes it difficult to get to know people or try to connect beyond everything that's going on. One thing I appreciate that you guys did, the Pat Tillman Center did, was the movie night on the field. I wasn't able to make it because it was just a crazy time, but I appreciate events like that because it gives me the opportunity to come out, and it's a safe space to try to meet new people and connect with other student veterans who typically have kids, especially if it's a movie night thing. So I would love to see more activities like that. Or, different settings with that include kids so that I can bring my kids along and they can feel a part of the experience of being a student, because I know that was important in the military, when they had family days and all of that, the military did do that to allow my kids to feel a part of it. So I do appreciate that. But the other stuff, I haven't figured it out. And social work is my degree path, so I really probably should have a better answer, but I don't.
So it's social work as in ongoing. That's all it is.
Yes.
And it's just ongoing socialization. Good. Okay. Thank you. Gil, what do you think? You think, is it easy for you to build community, single dad, 9-year-old?
I'm sure, I mean, anything's possible if you put the time towards that. But I don't know. I feel like time is that one thing that makes it hard to build that camaraderie, because you have to take time to, well, first seek the people out. And if you already know where they're at, then you have to take the time to get to know them and have that network, build a friendship or whatnot, build that community. And it takes time. And for me, it's just time that unfortunately I just don't have. I have the same 24 hours as everyone else.
Mm.
And within that 24 hours, I have to do all my engineering work. Now I have my son. And then, I got to cook, right? Like, and believe it or not, like my mom was right all along. Like, it takes a lot of time and effort to cook, not just cook, washing the dishes, like, yeah, like I'm paying for it now that I'm in 33. I am paying for it.
Yeah.
So like all that. And then plus, you have your side gigs and projects and things that you want to accomplish in your life. So you just like, you have to prioritize, and I think it makes it hard. But if I did have the time, I don't think it would be that difficult. I know of plenty of veterans that are in my classes that are around my age that have kids. So it wouldn't be hard to do. It would just be the time aspect.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, isn't that the case? You have great camaraderie in the military because you spend all your time together. And that's what causes it, right? So it was 24 hours. It's the same 24 hours in the Army, in the Marine Corps, as it is in the civilian world. However, they focus your 24 hours together. And now I have 24 hours to do all these things, and I have to split all those hours out. And it doesn't come easy, for sure, especially when you have kids. Kids are they're time suckers, not in a bad way, but all your time is depleted to do the things that maybe you might think about doing when it comes to building community. Benno, I think we had a question from the audience that fit here well.
We do, Sean, and we got like 15 minutes left, so I'm going to put it to you guys like this. The question is, what is your support network like now versus when you were serving? And if you guys could just kind of give us a single sentence answer, good, bad, or about the same. What do y'all think?
Yeah, good. When they get older, they become part of it.
Yeah, I think my support network has definitely decreased. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think mine increased because my support network when I was in the Marines was, very vulgar, and it was just like suck it up, buttercup, that type of, and now it's different. Now I have mentors and colleagues, and my parents and we have a better relationship, and so I don't know. For me, it's gotten better.
Yeah. I think there's definitely room for both statements, for sure. It just depends on, what works best for your particular circumstances. I would say that I miss my Army time, right? I miss those, like they have to respond to you, which is something that's good, right? Like if I go to my sergeant is ordered to take care of me. So there isn't this, well, when you get the time, Jazz, they do it because that's your job to do it. Now, if I ask, like, let's just use Amanda's experience reaching out to the ASU 360. And, they're supposed to do it, but sorry, we don't have an appointment. That doesn't happen in the military. So I think that there definitely is a little bit of both there. Okay. Like Benno said, we got about 12 minutes. I want to spend the last part of this asking you if you had one piece of advice to give student veterans who are starting here at ASU, they got kids. What would that piece of advice be if somebody said, give me your one best piece of advice?
I'd probably just give them your card,
Here's my card.
Yeah, here's Sean's card.
Oh, my card. Oh boy,
yeah,
that's
card,
scary.
Your card. Or no, but in all honesty, I mean, I would have them reach out to you guys because I mean that's your realm and you're gonna know what's out there for them. And then, I mean, there's always the work study thing. Your work studies, I'm sure, could help with that as well. So yeah. I mean, what are we doing here, right? We're trying to support student veterans with kids right now in real time.
Real time. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that would be my advice to them, is to reach out to you folks.
Nice. Thanks, Brian. Gil, what's your piece of advice?
I'll give you two for the price of one. So the first one would be, don't bite more than you can chew. Be honest with yourself, don't overwhelm yourself, because that's just it's gonna add stress, and eventually it'll boil over. And then my second one is just take it one day at a time.
Yeah. Simple and beautiful. Don't bite off more than you can chew, and take it one day at a time. It's good. Thank you. Amanda, piece of advice.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be to remember just why you're doing what you're doing. So when things do get hard, you remember that motivation. And there was a reason I was pursuing my master's. And so as many times and as many crazy things that have happened in the last year and a half since I started the program, and I've wanted to quit, I've gone back to that, like, remember why I'm doing this and why I want to be a social worker and why I want to help people. And that has kind of helped me to, like Gil said, take it day by day so that I can make it to the next day.
It's good. Thank you, Amanda. And I'll kind of leave you with this from an old grandpa. When it does get tough and it gets really difficult and you just don't know if you can make it till tomorrow, and think about the legacy that you're leaving to your kid. The fact that you're struggling through right now, your son, daughter, grandson, one day will look back and they'll be able to say, it was really tough for grandpa. It was really tough for mom, but what she did, it meant the world to me today. And so we all, just like our military careers, some of us, we had legacies there. I think back of my grandpa's fighting in World War II, and my uncles in Vietnam, and Desert Storm, and then me. And I look back over that legacy and I think about, I'm thankful for them because I had the opportunity to do what I am today. And so when it gets tough and you're up against it, and maybe you bit off more than you can chew, remember that you're worth it, that your kids are worth it, that legacy is worth it. So thank you all to the panelists today for taking some time. I know, guess what? We took some time away from your kids today. We took some time away from all the tasks that you had, and you were so humble and kind to take the opportunity to speak with us today. Thank you for coming, and thank you to all of our participants that watched today and joining us at the Veteran Voices.